Welcome back to the Worldwide Reds. Manchester United are back at Old Trafford on Monday night, but Ruben Amorim could be facing a major selection headache with potentially 6 players missing. Injuries, illnesses, and AFCON uncertainty dominate the build-up while Bournemouth arrive with a reputation Ruben Amorim himself has called special. Tonight we break down the team news, what makes Bournemouth such a tough test, and what United must do to get the job done at home. How are we, boys? How's things? And how's the Sunday going? Evening, I suppose.
Been a great day. Sat on the lounge and watched football all day. Watched about 6 or 7 games.
Well, the football's usually good in terms of you could pick up 1 or 2 things, but as I said, like everyone, while I was Man United, none of the results went my way in regards to sort of enjoying a meltdown from another fan base. Like, Arsenal win, Chelsea win, Liverpool win. Usually you can bank on the weekend, so no matter what United do, someone else usually drops points or has a bit of a rough weekend as well. I can take a little bit of joy from. But today, all the rivals seem to be in a good mood, which put me in a bad mood.
Mate, I tell you what, I was sitting here watching. I wasn't in the cave, but I was in the living room watching the Arsenal game, and I was watching it with George and his Arsenal, and fucking hell, I was dying for Arsenal to draw the game or lose the game. Oh, my God. Talk about a piss weak team. You know what? I want Arsenal to win. I wanted Arsenal to win the league, but after watching the way they play today, when they went 1-0 up, and then what's his name had 72% of the possession in the last 10 minutes of the game. That's not a championship side. That's not a championship winning team. That's an embarrassment, man. Arteta's got a lot to answer for. Seriously, it is shit.
He's got to win a trophy this year for him. He has to win a major trophy.
Mate, they sat back. Seriously, they scored the first goal. Look, I know we talk about Amorim, but we're building, right? If Arsenal go at Wolves, they win the game comfortably, I reckon. It's not the Wolves were counter-acting quick or anything like that. They weren't. They were just sitting back themselves. So I cannot understand why Arsenal decided to sit back and just let Wolves come at them. For the life of me, I don't get it.
That's just the way they play. They sit. When I watched it today, they just sat very narrow and just kind of sat with 4 defenders in the box and just tried to defend everything into the box. And that's what caught them out. The Wolves had that cross shot from the edge of the box, and it got flicked on. And that was the one thing. They just kept letting balls come into the box. So they are a very good defensive team, but I think they need to control games a bit better. And I think that's why. Well, I don't think they'll win the league personally. I'd like to see them win the league, but I just think they're missing experience in players who can go on and win the league.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think once they win one, they'll be okay, but it's hard to get that first one under your belt.
Yeah. Look, okay, I want to move on from Arsenal real quick, but the first thing I want to do before we get into the Bournemouth game, I want to bring up. Look, Tom and I have discussed this before about ex-players having a say about the current crop of players and everything like that. And you boys have probably read about it as well and seen it. But I want to talk about Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes talking about Mainu and basically on Ruben Amorim. So I've put his quote up here. Paul Scholes on Kobe Mainu. He scored the winning goal in the FA Cup final. He played nearly every game in the Euros. I bet he takes the piss out of Casemiro every home game, every single training session. Manchester United love homegrown players. Why is it Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada allowing the manager to treat a homegrown talent like this? What are your thoughts on that, boys? Tom?
Yeah, it's hard because Paul Scholes was my favourite footballer. Roy Keane is my favourite footballer. Paul Scholes was a close second, but the best footballer I've seen at Old Trafford. So he goes into the category of my favourite on and off the pitch, and absolutely loved him. One of those main reasons we did love Paul Scholes, and me especially, was that he was just a footballer. He never opened his mouth, even after a man-of-the-match performance. There was no post-match interview. He went home. You never saw him until 3 o'clock the next Saturday. And it was brilliant. He hung up the boots, and he hasn't shut up. Now, in saying that, I agree with 99% of the things he says, so I'm not complaining about listening to him speak. I love hearing him speak about Manchester United, but it's a weird dynamic where he built his career about sort of shying away from the cameras. Now someone as a camera, he's got a very strong opinion about Manchester United, which is valid and is welcome, but it always is one that definitely stirs opinion or stirs a little bit of emotion amongst Manchester United fans. And obviously, given the last 10 years, any opinion, any critique is going to stir emotion because it's a highly sort of charged time for Manchester United fans. So I see where Scholes is coming from there. I also agree with many parts of where Scholes is coming from there. I do think there is always context and there is always two sides. And here's one where I'm sort of the biggest fan of Kobbie Mainoo. I think he's Manchester United's best footballer. I think he's our best player. So I should be sort of throwing everything out of the pram in terms of why isn't he playing. But I'm not on the training ground. I'm not Ruben Amorim. I'm not seeing all the details in training and sort of exactly what is going on. I would like to see Kobbie Mainoo play, of course. But it's just weird. Your best player isn't just on the bench because the manager doesn't like him. If he is that good, he's going to be playing. Now, when a player, let's say like a Patrick Dorgu, and I'm not putting all these players into the same category, but let's say a Dorgu or a Benjamin Sesko or a Joshua Zirkzee, if they don't play for 6 weeks and they come on and they don't really perform, we're going to say, geez, yeah, no, that's why they're not in the team. If Kobbie Mainoo hasn't played for 6 weeks and he comes in and doesn't really perform to a high level, we say, oh, look, he hasn't played for 6 weeks. We have to give him a little bit of time. Why is he different to Dorgu? Why is he different to Xerxes? Why is he different to these other players? And again, there might be a case where we do need to treat that player differently. But I just think these quotes from Paul Scholes, I agree and disagree. It's just hard to form an opinion when it's so emotional because I want to see Kobbie Mainoo play, but I also have a stance in terms of the way I view football and the way I support Manchester United and this could be wrong, but unfortunately siding with the manager first. Okay, my full backing is behind the manager, and that could be wrong. That support could very well be misplaced. But I do feel, okay, he's the manager. He's seen what's happening on the training ground. He's making his decisions. Whether I agree with him or not, he's been given the privilege of being the manager. It's his team to make a decision with. It's not my team. Okay, it's my club, but it's his 11 players on the field. And I just think I'm mixed on it because I love Paul Scholes. I value the opinion. I respect the opinion. But I also think Scholes isn't on the training ground. I'm not on the training ground. And it's Ruben Amorim's team, not Paul Scholes' team.
I agree with everything you just said there, Tom, but there's something Scholes said the other week that kind of makes me realise why he loves Kobbie as much as he does. He made a comment the other week when he got asked about who's the best midfielders in the Premier League at the moment. And he said Tonali, he likes Vitinha from PSG. He said he doesn't put Declan Rice and Caicedo in that category because he likes players that can dictate the tempo of a game and play with the ball at their feet. I think that's something that he looks at with Mainoo as a type of player that is very technical on the ball and probably why he holds him in a position of he should play every week. He should be taking the piss out of Casemiro at training, apparently. But I also think if we looked more into it, which we can't, but on the training ground, I reckon it could even be an attitude problem or something there. I don't know what it is, but if he is as good as what we all think he is, I think he's technically the best player at our club, on the ball. I think he is so smart with his awareness, and for such a young player to have so much maturity in being on the ball in high pressure situations, I just think there's something we're not seeing that the manager might be seeing. I don't know. I don't know if it's because he has the legs to play in that midfield, as I've said a couple of times in the last few weeks, but Casemiro doesn't. He's just got the experience of big games and how to win games. I don't know.
I think
I
we
just
often
hate
use,
to see him go.
I think me personally as well, but I think that in general, the fan base and the media over-reg this system and formation. I think we use it as a bit of a cop-out and sort of let the players off and pin it all on the system, pin it all on Ruben Amorim. In saying that, in regards to Kobbie Mainoo specifically, I do think maybe just solely himself is maybe a little bit of a victim of the system and maybe just doesn't quite suit him in regards to, okay, he is someone who can play in the 10, but you don't really want him to drift out into wide areas, which these number 10s sort of probably have to do. And in a real sort of old-fashioned, I'm not calling Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes an old-fashioned two, but really with... on paper, they're almost an old-fashioned sort of box-to-box pairing in midfield. Is Kobbie Mainoo one of those players? Probably not. He is probably someone who's sort of come through the Manchester United ranks and sort of developed in the modern football trend of 4-3-3. And how, if you want to have 1-6 or 2-6, however you want to look at that, pretty much you'd assume, pretty much every sort of midfielder around the world the last 15 years in their development, from 8 years old to 20 years old, have sort of grown up in a 4-3-3. I think he is a player who probably is in and around that old-fashioned 3 in the midfield. Now, that is not an excuse. I think as a professional footballer, highly paid for Manchester United, if you're a right winger and the coach wants you to play left back, you go and play left back and you play it better than anyone because you're a professional footballer. So I don't want to sort of make too many excuses for Kobbie Mainoo, but I do think if there is one player I am going to make a bit of sort of allowance for in regards to the system actually not quite fitting him, just in terms of the way I see him on the field and how he gets about in certain areas, I do think he does suffer a little bit from being in that 2-man midfield.
Well, he'd thrive in a team that dominates the ball for 70-80% possession of a game. Like he would thrive in a team that sits another team in their own box and they just play the ball through, because he's so good in tight areas of just splitting 2 little defenders with a little through ball or turning a player on a half turn. Like, he's very technically good when we've got the ball. Unfortunately, we don't have the ball all that much. We actually look more dangerous when we go on the counter-attack in a quick transition, which is why I think even when he does play, he doesn't... I don't know if Amorim doesn't prefer him because of that. Like, the ball doesn't get moved as quick out wide, the ball doesn't get pushed up the field super quick. He's very good at holding the ball and keeping the ball and being technical with it, if that's coming across right.
I think Ruben's got a plan for him. I don't think he's moving in January. I don't believe he is.
I hope not, man.
I don't believe he is. Everyone's saying he is. He wants this. He wants that. Unless there's more to the contract situation that happened. What was it, last year when he went in? He wanted $200,000 a week. But unless there's more to that, I don't think he's going anywhere, because I fully believe, and we had this conversation with Dino midweek. I believe he could play that 6 role, and I think he'd play it better than Agurte anyway. And they just need to sort that area out. Anyway, the next one I got there is Paul Scholes on Ruben Amorim. I don't think this manager gets the club, full stop. I just don't think he's the right man. If you go to Sporting Lisbon and watch, they play 3 at the back right away. That is a no. Man United never do that. So Paul Scholes is absolutely tearing him one, really, which I think that is uncalled for, to be honest with you. I think he needs to support the manager, and he doesn't need to come out and basically say, okay, you mightn't fully understand the club, but I think in Ruben Amorim's defense, he's the manager. He wants to come in and put his footprint on the club. He doesn't want to follow other traditions. He wants to start his own tradition.
You make that point there, and it's one that I agree with. And the reason I agree with it is, weirdly, it was years ago. And it really stands out to me when this debate always comes out, when Louis van Gaal came in, and we weren't really a fan of his football. When Jose Mourinho came in and he had his sort of off-field persona and what he wanted to do, what Erik ten Hag wanted to do, what Ralph Rangnick wanted to change, now with Ruben Amorim. But I go back to I don't have the quote in front of me, but Jamie Carragher years ago got it bang on for me. And he was speaking about me. I forget which manager was in charge. Might have been Erik ten Hag, might have been Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He might have been referring to Louis van Gaal. But it was in regards to the way we view managers and say they have to play the Manchester United way. And that's a thing. That's a thing we all believe in. That's a thing we all sort of talk about. It is a thing, the Manchester United way. And we think that in regards to football is fast attacking wingers, 4-4-2, get the ball down the line, cross it in, striker heads it in the goal. Sort of real fast, fine attacking football. And that's because Sir Matt Busby played it, and that's because Sir Alex Ferguson played it, and that is the Manchester United way. Jamie Carragher put it right, and I agree with it now in regards to, and there is sort of room for discussion. There's agree and disagree in parts. But should a manager come in and do that because that's the Manchester United way, or is the Manchester United way allowing a manager to come in and do it their way? Did we just allow Sir Alex Ferguson to do it his way? Did we allow Sir Matt Busby to do it his way? Do you know what I mean? Should Ruben Amorim, is the Manchester United way 4-4-2, an attacking football, or is the Manchester United way you 100% let this manager do what he wants, and that's actually the Manchester United way. Now, a lot of people will disagree with that, and there's no right or wrong answer in regards to it. But that is where I do think Scholes is not really wrong in the opinion. I can see where he's coming from, but it's very sort of short-sighted and sort of looking with his blinkers on. I don't think it grasps the full picture of everything. And I think you're right, Adam, in regards to we call for honesty from pundits and fans and give us your true opinion. We don't want anyone going on Sky Sports and just sort of towing the party line and not giving their honest opinion. But there's how many people out there in regards to really influential amongst the Manchester United fan base. You've got Gary Neville, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes is probably third on that list in regards to Manchester United voices. We do want honesty. We do want his true opinion, but there is also a responsibility that he needs to sort of carry himself. I'm not saying he's sort of really disrespecting the club or anything, but he needs to understand how much weight his voice does carry. And I do think, we do want that honest opinion, but he knows that's going to stick. Now, that's a little bit of pressure on Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim doesn't need. So what's more important, Paul Scholes' podcast or the support of Manchester United? What does he value more? At the moment, this is something that brings a lot of traction to his podcast, and that's great. But it brings a lot of attention, a lot of pressure to Ruben Amorim, which probably isn't needed at the moment. So I think that is where, and this is me as someone who loves Paul Scholes, and I value the opinion, but a little bit, in my opinion, as I said, a little bit uncalled for.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think you can. Sorry, Adam. I just don't think you can sit there and say that in like the last 12 years, football has changed so much. We've gone through nearly 3 cycles of football in the last 15 years, from 4-4-2 to 4-3-3 to 4-2-3-1 to a 3-4-3 that ended up winning a Premier League under Conte, to now playing 4 central defenders and being a bigger, stronger, more physical team. There's so many ways football develops that I don't think you can sit there and say we have to play the Manchester United way. I think the Manchester United way is what the manager wants to play.
I think also you've got to remember that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Omar and all them, they've got a certain responsibility as well. So they've gone and they pushed to get Ruben Amorim because he plays a certain way. So to go and ask your manager that you've gone out and brought in halfway through a season to change his way to get not guaranteed results, you can't start. We can't sit here and go, if he changes his system, we're guaranteed results. Mate, we've literally lost 1 game in the last 9 matches. To me, I know we've had draws in that, but 1 in 9 matches. If somebody said to you at the beginning of the season, would you take 1 in 9 matches? What do you say? You'd take it all day long, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Not to mention if we win, I'll bring up the table a bit later, but we're moving into 5th spot. We're literally 6 points off first. It's crazy. It's a crazy season.
See, I've been a pretty big speaker on here about the system and the way I think Manchester United should set up and things like that. But at the same time, if Ruben Amorim wants to play the way he wants to play because that's what got him that job in the first place and made him so successful in Portugal, again, who are we to criticise that and tell him he can't? There's no Manchester United way of playing. It's how the team's going to set up. And I think the way of playing for Manchester United is giving 110% on the football field. Regardless of the formation, regardless of everything. You run for every possible ball you can, and you don't come off that field until you can't run anymore.
So I've got a couple of comments here from Dino. I don't know if you read this, Madam. But he's right. Rio is the only one who seems to talk some sense lately. I've got to be honest with you, Dino. I think he talks a lot of sense a lot of the time, rather than because I'm always comparing it to when Ollie was managing. Because I tell you what, when Ollie was managing, these pundits, these ex-players, they would not put shit on Ollie at all, and they would never do it.
They defended him in every way.
In every single way. And I loved Ollie as a manager. I didn't want to see him get sacked or anything like that. But they never, ever, ever put shit on him, even when they got hit hard with the questions. So they have to be very, very careful the way they go about things. And the other one he's got up here, we are sick of your system talk, Jordan.
Won't have any of that tonight, mate.
All right, let's move on. So we've got a big game. And it's another one where we take 3 points here. We move again up that table. Gives you. I don't know if you boys have watched Bournemouth much, but they're a very high press side. United do struggle a little bit with the high press, but on the other hand, if we break that high press, we do counter attack well. So it'll be a very interesting battle through that back line and their top half of the pitch, I suppose.
My only thing in regards to, and you're right in regards, and we can talk about sort of how the two teams will line up and how Manchester United should approach it. I just can't shake the fact. Manchester United, Bournemouth, Old Trafford. Like, just picture what that looks like in your mind. And they've won 3-0 2 years in a row at Old Trafford. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Surely there's not one team in history. Go back as far as you want.
Yeah.
They've won back-to-back seasons at Old Trafford 3-0. Surely that has never happened. And it's Bournemouth in 2024 and 2025. And I just think that is fair play to them. Maybe I don't know.
I wanted to hear.
I don't know their history. If that's the sort of the greatest achievement, with no disrespect to them, it might be the greatest moment in their club's history, winning 3-0 at Old Trafford. I'm not sure of their sort of trophy past or not, but it is something I just can't shake. And kind of in a comical way, I'm not laughing about it, but you can only laugh. Like, that's something that it's just crazy when you think about it. And here goes the feeling. Surely that can't happen again. We know what sort of happens when we get those feelings, and you can see it happen again. But the way the teams are going this season, you'd say Manchester United should win. We've said that many times. I think last time I was saying that. I think it was going into the West Ham or the Everton game on this podcast. So that's all that's my only feeling going into this. Not about systems, not about formation. Should Delay play on the left or should play on the right? Who's available with AFCON? That feeling I can't get away from is that record we have recently against Bournemouth, because it's crazy.
I think we've broken that hoodoo a little bit. Like, okay, maybe against Wolves last week, like Wolves were playing well against us. They've always played well against us, probably over the past 5 years, to be honest with you. They've always been our hoodoo team, and I think we've got past that. I just hope United come out and look. It's a tough one because they do feel the pressure at Old Trafford. It's like from the off go, they can feel the crowd, the emotions from the crowd, like whether they're up or down, just like you're talking now, Tom. And they come out probably not scared of Bournemouth, but more scared of the crowd. We need to try and get past that at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I worry about the thing Bournemouth score a lot of goals from is getting to the byline and cutting it back, and they have a 10 or their other winger tuck inside, and they have cutbacks around the penalty spot. A lot of their goals come from that. And I worry about if we set up like we normally do is not having the body. They're kind of like how Wolves scored against us, actually, but they actually mean to play that ball back into the box in that area, where Wolves, I think, was kind of quite lucky, but we don't have that body in there to cut that pass out, and that's where Matthias de Ligt's really good at. He actually reads the cutback quite well, and he steps into the ball. I worry about that in terms of the game itself tactically, but I don't know.
But this is where we need Casemiro and Bruno to be alert around that edge of the area, don't we?
100%.
Yeah, they have to be defensively minded in this game.
They both can't push on.
That's it, yeah. Until we get the ball and we're comfortable in the back. I think a lot of sideways passing won't help us this weekend. I've put up 2 lineups, so I've done 2. So let me just, mate, I'll tell you what, I'm getting bloody old, I'll tell you, because I've got my glasses in front of me, but I don't want to put them on. So I'll make my screen a little bit bigger. So I've got a lineup on our left-hand side where we've got Ahmed and Mbumo and what's his name? He's on the bench anyway, Mazraoui. But they're included in the lineup. And then if we've got the 6 players out, which are Maguire, De Ligt, Sesko, if Ahmed and Mbumo, I still can't believe we don't know whether they're United would know. I think it's just Amarin playing games, whether they're
I think United would know 100%. I think it's just they don't want to release to the media because they don't want to change the way you set up. Like, Do you know what I mean? Like that changes our whole right side, which is quite.
Yeah. Well, then, like, if I don't know if you agree with me on the right hand side, Sesko's out with food poisoning. He's got who said Sesko's out? Amarin said he's out with food poisoning. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how long his food poisoning goes for, but the kickoff's on Monday, and so he may surprise us and he might start. But that was in the press. I brought Delight actually in where Ahmed would be, and I brought Mainu in next to Casemiro and pushed Bruno up top a little bit, and that's if the players are out. So I don't know what your boys thought on that, or who you'd bring in, or what do you? I
like it, but I think he will, if the players are unavailable, right? We're going to the screen with Delort on the left. I think Mason Mount would play as a 10 alongside Cunha, and Bruno drops in for Manu, and then Jago Dalot plays on the left. I don't want to see that, but I think that's what will happen.
You think Diego Dalot will play in front of Shaw?
Yeah. And then,
okay.
Yeah, I
don't see any scenario where, and I know he'll take up areas towards the left in terms that's where his game sort of naturally drifts to. I don't see any scenario where Mason Mount is your left wing back at Old Trafford for this game. Look, yeah, in theory, if we're to dominate on paper and we get on the ball and he can sort of play in a more advanced position, of course, technically it can work. And if Diego Dalot then sort of drops back to a sort of right back and Luke Shaw shifts out to left back and you play a more traditional 4 at the back, which probably happens a little bit more often than sort of we care to admit. And we're really stuck on this 3 at the back or 5 at the back. Very often we do play 4 at the back, and it's not really talked about because the Sky Sports graphic before the match shows us as a 3, and our brains are just wired to say, "Go, we're playing 3 at the back." But quite often we do play 4, so that's where Mason Mount could play towards the left. But I do think maybe I misheard it in regards to the availability there, and it's not me clamouring for him to be into the team, but I think Patrick Dorgu comes in on the left and Diego Dalot out to the right. That's if the AFCON boys aren't available, and that's not sort of a Champions League winning team, but in regards to what we have at our disposal for the time being, I think that kind of picks itself. I do think it is interesting now with Maguire and Delete out. Of course, the options are limited, but I do think it's interesting in regards to our toys are currently out, a different scenario, but our toys are out of the Prem in regards to Kobbie Mainoo, who's not playing football at the moment. How is he treating the youth like this? Aidan Heavens in both those teams. Aidan Heavens starting games for Manchester. I know, yes, he's not a Manchester United Carrington product. I'm aware of that. But he's still a youth player, still a young player coming through. And besides one really rash tackle in his first game back, I think he's been pretty good at the heart of Manchester United's defence. So I think, yeah, that's an interesting selection, which we're sort of not really talking, or not really, I don't think it needs praise, but compared to how critical we are of other selections of the team, I think that is something we can sort of say, well done, Amarim, in placing a little bit of trust, because he could easily sort of rush Alessandro Martinez back and throw Martinez in there, but he's trusting Aidan Heaven, and I think rightly so.
Oh, I think it's fantastic that he's starting him. I think it's absolutely a God blessing. I think it's great.
Do you think you could play Luke Shaw and Martinez as 2 out of the 3 centre-backs?
I would. Go back to sort of our great centre-back partnerships or the great centre-back partnerships throughout football. Usually they're all right-footed. Obviously, you've got great centre-backs who are left-footed, and you could say, okay, they balanced each other out, but we never had an issue with Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic playing together, both right-footed. So if you've got 2 left-footers in there, it'll raise a discussion. My question is why? Now, it does. It raise a discussion for me as well. I see it as well, but it's lazy. Why?
The left-footers doesn't raise a question for me. It's the strength and the height.
Yeah. Obviously, that's worth a discussion. But just in regards to the way I picture Alessandro Martinez and Luke Shaw selection, in my mind, even though I disagree with it, my mind says, okay, that's 2 left-footers. Would a manager do that? Where a manager would have no hesitation playing 2 right-footers. So, look, would I play Luke Shaw and Alessandro Martinez? It's a good question.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
If need be, I would. Look, in an ideal situation, no, you'd like a more sort of old school, and I'll say Aidan Heavens, an old school British defender, but he is British in regards to I'd like a more sort of Premier League defender than those 2. Even though Luke Shaw's obviously English, but you know what I mean in regards to a proper centre-back.
Yeah,
And
like heads the ball, gets up for it. It's got the size and the strength and the physicality for it. Which,
look,
literally
if you had to
does.
flip a coin and you're away at Bournemouth or at home to Bournemouth, if you had to play Senna and Martinez and Shaw together, you'd rather that be at Old Trafford rather than away. But I do think that back three does pick itself. But it's interesting. If the AFCON boys are available, that completely changes it, because I do think Mazraoui, he goes somewhere into that team, which shifts that shape completely.
Yeah. Isn't it, like, I'm just looking at those lineups, and you're 100% right, Tom, about youth. Like, I think Dino brought it up last week, and I actually said, well, he's not part of the youth system. But you look at that lineup, you got Euros 19, Heavens 19, I think Heavens 18 or 19, and it must be one of the youngest centre-half partnerships in the whole league, really. I know Luke Shaw pumps the age up a bit, but I can't remember the last time United would have had two 19-year-olds in the back line.
Yeah, look, you could go to a cup game, of course, but in regards to sort of cutthroat Premier League games, you'd be looking at, I don't know, but back when, obviously there was the era during Louis van Gaal when he was playing sort of Paddy McNair, Tyler Blackett, Donald Love, players like that sort of came in for games here or there. But in regards to Manchester United's prime, I don't know, Johnny Evans and even Wes Brown had probably become an experienced player by the time Johnny Evans sort of came around, so you couldn't really say those two if they played together. Maybe Wes Brown and John O'Shea sort of coming through roughly sort of the same time if they ever partnered each other. But and look, it's not to take away from the discussion around Kobbie Mainoo. We do want to see him play, but I think we are overlooking the age of some of our players. And again, it sort of raises the question: is that sort of profile in terms of what we need to get back to where we need to now? Maybe not. But if we stick with it and get through it in 3 or 4 years' time, will these tough times prove beneficial? Fingers crossed that is the case. But I think Aidan Heaven's been really good and deserving of his spot. When De Ligt and Maguire are fit and available, it does change the discussion, of course. But for now, long may it continue.
Sorry, Jordan, you better say something.
No, you're right. Go.
I'll answer this for me. So Ruben Amorim actually has spoken about this. He's got a couple of things up his sleeve, and he was potentially talking about changing shape. Do you think he will change shape if there are 6 players out? Do you think he'll change shape? And if so, how does he change it up? Where does he go to? How does it happen? Jordan, you're good with all that.
Sorry, say that again. You kind of cut out for me then.
I forgot myself. No, I was saying.
My headset was
I was saying Ruben Amorim has spoken about change. They've been working on other things, right? Mm-hmm. If we do have 6 players out, Ruben has spoken about maybe changing the shape up a little bit. How does he go about it, and how do we move forward with it?
How would I change it up, or how do I?
How would you change it up, or how do you think? Bit of both.
So if we're not got any of the AFCON players, I'd go into pretty much a 4-3-3 with 3 in the midfield, Dallard at right back, Shaw at left back, play your 2 centre backs, whoever's fit, Aidan Heaven and Lenny Yoro for say, and then you could got your Casemiro, Mainoo, or your Garte. If Mainoo's not doing well at training, doesn't seem to prefer him, you can play them 2 with Bruno as a 10. That just gives you 3 in the midfield at all times, because I think what we've gotten so used to this season is Brian Mbeumo is so good at that right attacking midfield spot. Like, it's almost like the position's perfect for him. He cuts in all the time and scores goals. It's just perfect for him because he's not too wide, but in saying that, he does get dragged out a few times. But I think that can bring it back to, we can play a simple style of football until our players get back. If that makes sense.
I don't interpret, and again, I might be wrong. It's just the way I listen to those quotes and the way I interpret it. It wasn't the formation for me he was talking about. I think the way we've been playing recently, and it's not to say we're old school Stoke, but we're really getting the ball forward to our striker, getting the ball forward. So that it sounds bad, but it's working for the team who's top of the league. Can we get Diego Dalot a long throw? Can we work corners? Can we work a set piece sort of thing? And we're playing quite physical in terms of the way we are getting the ball forward. Okay, Brian Mbeumo's cheap. then it's something we praise. If we're losing games, we'd be critical of it. Brian Mbeumo is very much cheating. He's not defending at all. I know we do remember the time he came back and sort of got a yellow card, but in terms of the way he's sort of taken up positions defensively, he's staying very high. So Manchester United and Bruno Fernandes wins the ball, which not kick and chasing, but we're lumping the ball forward to Brian Mbeumo, who's in a little bit of space. I do think the way he's thinking maybe in regards to maybe having a thinner squad throughout AFCON, in regards to that's a very sort of high transitional way of playing, a lot of up and down sort of movements physically. I do think the way I interpreted that quote was keeping the ball a little bit more, and that obviously draws to a discussion to bring Kobbie Mainoo into the team. And I think sort of maybe a little bit more of a slow build-up if you don't have that quick option of putting Mbeumo in behind, because who else are you going to put on the right-hand side to go and get him behind? Ahmad's not going to be there. He's in the same category as Mbeumo. So who on that right wing or even left wing are you really going to sort of put a through ball in behind to when they're not available? I don't think there is one. Maybe there is someone who I'm not thinking about, but I don't think there is. So I'm thinking, okay, that's not an option. Or the manager will choose not to play like that. How is he then going to play? And I do think that is where you want to bring it, or in my mind, bring in Kobbie Mainoo and keep the ball a little bit more. So that is how I interpreted him changing things up. If he needs to.
I was more saying what I'd do personally, because with what you're saying there and keeping the ball, it's very difficult to do in a two-man midfield. Like, it's very difficult when you're versing a three-man midfield. The ball's
I think that the shape would change. Let's say just man for man. Okay, Mbeumo leaves, Mainoo comes in. Obviously, Mainoo's not coming in. Now, you could say he comes into a 10 position. He'll play it a little bit different. So maybe the formation stays exactly the same and the players just play it differently. Like Joshua Zirkzee plays completely different to a different type of striker. But they play the same position. Bruno Fernandes plays the same position, very different to Casemiro, or to, let's go back, he'd play very different to, I don't know, Claude Makelele. He played it's the same position, different characters, different profiles. So I'm thinking, okay, let's say you bring in Kobbie Mainoo, he'd play that position, but he's obviously one who'll drift into midfield. So he's currently your right winger or your right 10, but he's playing in midfield. So suddenly you do have a three-man midfield, even though the Sky Sports graphic at the start of the game has him as a 10.
Yeah, I do see that happening, especially if I think the perfect person to do that and drift in to become that third-man midfield is Bruno, as he plays as a 10, because he actually does, when he plays as a 8, he gets caught wide a lot, which is why we get caught on a lot of our counter-attacks actually in transition, because he's actually caught in the wide channels. But I think if he was to play as a 10 and you had Kobbie and Casemiro and told them to stay quite central together, Bruno could be that one that, as you said, starts as the wide 10, but actually comes inside a lot of the time. It's actually kind of what Cole Palmer does for Chelsea. He actually starts, and so does, again, Phil Foden, which we've talked about before, them type of roles where they actually, on the screen where they start up and they tell you the lineup, they're playing as like a 10 or a right wing. They might change throughout the season, but they're actually playing as like exactly where Brian Mbeumo plays for us, but they come short, they don't go in behind. So I think that could be something that we could do with Bruno. Do you know what I mean?
I've actually got a question here from Elliot. I'll put it to you. Do we think we have been poorly planned for this AFCON tournament from a squad perspective? I think I just touched on it about 2 minutes ago. I really believe Ruben's just playing games. I reckon he's playing games. I believe he knows what's happening, and he's not. I think he's just keeping his cards close to him. Yep. He doesn't want to. I think Ruben's a very smart manager. I'm learning that a little bit more each week, and he's probably getting sick of the media as well. So he's telling the media less and less. He's learning that real quick. I don't know what you boys think.
I think in regards to Elliot's question there, in regards to a starting 11 this week, and your thoughts there in regards to the way Ruben Amorim's currently handling the press. Yeah, that's discussion. Does he know? Does Manchester United know? Do the players know? Whose responsibility is it to announce it? Should the fans know? It's a whole debate. We potentially have a month without these African players at the club. So what does the squad look like? Are we prepared for a month without these players? And I've just said there, if Brian Mbeumo doesn't play right wing, who's our, you know what I mean by right wing, right side of 10. If Brian Mbeumo isn't there, who's our right winger? And suddenly I have to go through the Man United app and start looking at players. Because actually, well, Ahmad's not there. Who's really going to play there? So I think in regards to have we been poorly sort of planned for the AFCON, you can make a case that I don't want to say we're too African heavy in regards to numbers wise, but it is a sort of debate to have in regards to teams. It is a sort of constant tournament, does come around far more frequently than a Euros, than a World Cup, and it is obviously played throughout the season. So it is when you are sort of planning a squad or structuring a squad together, and this falls on Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox, it is something you do have to sort of contend with. You can't sort of just think, oh yeah, we'll deal with it in January. If 3 or 4 of your best players suddenly gone missing for a month, that's completely going to, I wouldn't say derail your season, but potentially have a huge impact on your season. So how are you best prepared to make sure that doesn't happen? And at the moment, we're all having the discussion, who on earth plays in place of Brian Mbeumo? Because it can't be Ahmad, because he's in the same boat.
Dino makes a good point here. We do.
There.
Yeah, that's what Dino's just said. We should be playing Bruno there. And we're all calling for Bruno to come in and play 10, and that's where Mainu comes in. He's got to trust him at some stage. He's got to trust Mainu at some stage. Whether it's a trust issue, Xerxes can play 10 as well. I think Dino just popped up and said that. I think we got a few options there, and I know what you're getting at, Tom. I just like even if we go to the youth team, but I don't think he's ready to bring in like the likes of Shea Lacey and things like that. I think he's more likely to bring him in a cup game or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Tom makes a good point, though, in the fact of, like, we've got players that can play the 10, but it's not no one that can play the same type of way that Mbeumo or Ahmad can play. Like, say if Mbeumo doesn't play and Ahmad's fit, you put him there. He's a left-footed, fast, good runner with the ball. It's not a like-for-like swap, but it's quite similar in there, what they can do. But I think what Tom's trying to say is if you're actually going to play someone on that right now, like that, to keep the same structure and system and tactics that we're playing, there's not really that extra person to put there, which is why I think even going back to what you said, Adam, about Amarim saying that we're going to change the way we play and stuff a bit, or there's going to be shake-up and whatnot. I think it could be as simple as he's going to push Bruno up there and bring another midfielder in, and then we're not going to have that, like, Bruno's going to have the free role there of go where you want, pick the ball up where you have to, and make players move.
100%. I've just got I've got Dino. Sorry, I was just reading the comments. Dino's gone. Problem is we can't have a big squad because no Euros football. And Elliot's got, I'd like to see Martinez slot in and Shaw play at wing back. Yeah, mate. Sure at wing back. Next minute you got a hamstring injury. I know where you're getting that, Elliot, but I'm worried about that.
Look, how many times have we discussed it? If there's even the possibility with Ruben Amorim to view Luke Shaw as a left wing back, personally, I wouldn't mind it, but I think that I just see no evidence that Ruben Amorim will do that. But just in regards to a straight shootout between Luke Shaw and Lisandro Martinez, look, I've said this before, I completely understand why Ruben Amorim plays Luke Shaw when he's fit and available, but in regards to getting Lisandro Martinez back into the team, we're talking about with Shea Lacey, we're talking about with Kobbie Mainoo. When are they going to get their minutes to develop it and sort of get match ready for when they're really called upon? Lisandro Martinez, the same thing. He's had 1 or 2 appearances now. He's looked okay in the 1 or 2 appearances. There's going to have to come a time where he's going to start a match and sort of really have a go. Now, I'm not saying it has to be this week. I'm not saying it has to be next week, but there's going to come a time soon where he's going to be back match fit. And if he's just getting 10, 20 minutes off the bench, he's not really going to get that. Again, at home to Bournemouth is when you do that. That's previous results against Bournemouth, and that doesn't suggest that. So, but in regards to that, if I am to fit Lisandro Martinez into the team, you would think that he's at the expense of Luke Shaw, which I don't think is going to happen. So it'll be interesting if there is a little bit of wiggle room there by the manager.
It's funny, like we think about that left-hand side, and then Elliot pops up with it's either Luke Shaw or Dorgu. You know what I mean? Like if you look at crossing ability, Luke Shaw can whip in a lovely cross. I think it's more the old legs, whether he can keep up with it or not. That's the only thing, isn't it? And then you got Dino, Sesko up top, Cunha, Mount as 10s. Then you can leave Casemiro and Bruno. Yeah, fair call. All right, let's move into. We're getting through this pretty well today. It's been a nice discussion. I'm going to give a couple of shout outs here while we're just before I put something up. I've got Mr. Wazza. He's in there, the man that's cycling across from Perth to Adelaide to Melbourne to Sydney. He's online on Instagram, who I hung out with today. An absolute pleasurable day. It was a fantastic day. We've got Benjamin Brazil in the chat, straight from Manchester. He'll definitely be at the game on Tuesday. And Mikey from Atlanta there. And LA boys, all good. I'm going to put the table up now. And I love looking at this table at the moment. I'm going to make my screen a lot bigger so we can have a better look at it. And Jordan and I were having a bit of a talk about how many goals we've scored. So we've got a game in hand, and we're within people. I don't think people have realised that we're in actually the top 3 or 4 goal scorers in the Premier League. So if you have a look at Arsenal's scored 30, City 35, Chelsea on 27, and you got Liverpool and us on 26. Now, we've got the game in hand. So we score 4 or 5 in this game, we move right up there. Our biggest problem is we keep conceding. So we've scored 26 and we've conceded 22. So, you know what? There are positives going into this weekend and positives around the team. Like I said before, too, we're 1-9. So, you know, they're pretty good figures if you're playing basketball.
I don't know if that league table sort of obviously you want to see Manchester United higher, of course, in regards to sort of what we've grown up on. But so I'm not saying I'm happy or pleased or excited about what I see. But I do look at that, and there is some type of excitement or joy or sort of positivity, thinking,
100%.
Okay, you win here, you move it. But also, I look at that and think, what could have been? Those Everton and go back to any match, of course. And there are bad ones at the start. You look at Fulham, you even look at Arsenal at the start. We should have got something out of that. That there are a handful of games. I think in regards to my memory, and someone can prove me completely wrong, take Grimsby out, but obviously a cup game. City is the only match. Sometimes happens. City is the only match really. City are better. City smashed us. They're by far better. We had no right to win that match. Manchester United weren't good enough. We were beaten by the better team. Every other game, you sort of have that taste in your mouth after, oh, God, what could have been? Could have been a little bit better. They should have been a little bit better. That Everton and the West Ham, what could have been? Like, you add those 5 extra points for us, and everything looks a little bit different now.
Even go back to Forest, we're up to Tottenham.
Yeah.
Like, they're just 2 games off the top of my head. Everton, you're versing 10 men for 75 minutes.
Look, every club has that. Every club has that. Wolves could probably draw up a scenario where they're sitting in 12th at the moment. Like, every club sort of does have that scenario, but you just think, I think we're probably where we should be. We're probably where we should be in regards to as much noise as there has been around Liverpool, and rightly so. They still had a very good start to the season. I think they won their first 5 games, or at least 4, 5, 6 games. Had a very good start, so they've sort of come back down to earth, and just gives you a little bit of hope now. You have to beat Bournemouth.
Didn't Villa lose their first few games as well?
Villa didn't score in their first 3 games.
Yeah. That's and Dino makes a good point about Bruno missing the pen start of the season. Far out. Tom, I wish you hadn't brought that up.
But I'll choose to look at the positives in that in regards to where we could go with the victory against Bournemouth, because we're going to have bad times throughout this season. We're going to have maybe not as bad as Grimsby, but at some stage, fingers crossed, but at some stage, we're probably going to get knocked out of the FA Cup. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but that's going to be a negative day where we're all going to sack him, sell him. That's coming. So we're going to have more bad days. We're going to lose probably a big game here or there against Chelsea or City or Arsenal. We're going to have bad days, but they're also going to have a few good days as well. And I just think we can provide ourselves a very good platform if we can, for those good days, by just beating Bournemouth at home, by taking advantage, because we just need to take advantage at one stage. Now, the results this week didn't go our way from a rival's point of view, watching Liverpool win, watching Chelsea win, but in regards to maybe taking points off 1 or 2 clubs, maybe sort of in and around 8th, 9th, 10th, we can potentially start to, I don't want to say we're bridging the gap from 10th spot, but if we can start to sort of solidify sort of, okay, we've got European football, can we get Champions League football? Rather than sitting in 10th, 11th, 12th, let's try and get Europa League football, let's try and get Conference League football. If we can almost be in that position where, okay, we're pretty content with European football, now what competition can we potentially make? I think it would maybe, I wouldn't say suit these players, but just take a little bit of pressure off their shoulders because we know how they deal with pressure. And if they're dealing with another season of no European football, that's something I'm not sure these players can deal with greatly.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I think it's more about them just putting two good halves together.
That was what I was about to ask. Like, sorry, Adam, but see where we
No, go
are
for
on the table and how close it is. I'd say you guys are happy kind of where we're sitting with the wind tomorrow morning. You'd be happy with where we are.
Where's that put us? Fifth.
Tied fourth.
Yeah.
On points, doesn't it? Am I reading that right? Yeah, we'll be tied with Chelsea in fourth.
It'll be yeah. And then if
But
we
we'd be
score
fifth.
4, we'll be ahead of them. We'll be one
You guys
goal
would be
ahead of them.
happy with that at this point in the season?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you have to. And again, in regards to this whole thing, which is around football at the moment, standards FC, and we're a Manchester United standards, and that's a discussion. I'm a little bit sick of it. So yes, where we should be. Yes, we should be where Arsenal and where Man City are. But just in regards to the way I've had to, and I think the fans have probably sadly had to sort of readjust their view of sort of evaluating seasons in recent times, where I'm taking my joy. We can move above Liverpool. Yes, I'm happy. If we're above Tottenham, yes, I'm happy. If we're above Newcastle, yes, I'm happy because I can take a little bit of joy in their downfall. Now, yes, I want to be above the other teams, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, of course. But if there's a club doing worse than us, there's reason to be joyful considering how bad the last 10 years has been.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, you look at the squads of especially the two at the top, you'd nearly swap every one of their players for one of ours on the starting lineup, just hypothetically. But in terms of what I was saying is, we're happy with where we're sitting. Are we happy with how we're playing and performing? Like, do you think...
I'm definitely not happy with the way we're performing because, like I just said, like if we need to put two good halves together, we need to do that, and we need to do that on a consistent basis. And I don't think this year we've put two back-to-back halves together. Example last week, 1-1.
I'm not happy with the way we're performing, and you're right, Adam, in regards to that 90 minutes, a specific 90 minutes performance. Yeah, I'm not happy. However, and again, this is not me being happy with it, in regards to around the grounds and what other clubs are doing, it's been good enough. Not good enough in regards to where we should be, of course, but in regards to getting the job done. And let's say our goal is European football or Champions League football. At the moment, it's on track to be good enough. Now, that's Eric Ten Hag's famous good enough, sort of not good enough, or whatever the quote was. You know what I mean? So I think, the performances do need to be better. But you are looking around the grounds. Every other club is saying the same thing. So it's just, it's
exactly what I was about to say. I don't think anybody right now would be, other than probably Arsenal, with where they're sitting and the way their fans carry on. I don't think any other club right now would be. Oh, probably Villa. Everyone else would be going. We should be doing a little bit better here, but we almost like Sunderland, for example.
Palace are doing well, aren't they? And again, look, fingers crossed we move above them, and suddenly they don't look so high and pretty. But Villa and Palace.
I think they're a very underrated squad, though. Palace.
Well, I don't think
their manager's not looked at the way he should be. I think that Oliver Glasner is exceptional.
I don't think Arsenal should be happy with the way they're playing. Definitely not. Like, I watched them today. They were terrible.
I watched them too. I wouldn't be happy with them, but I just know they're looking at that going, we're first. We just beat Real Madrid in the Champions League. Things like that. No, sorry.
We're talking about a team. We're talking about a team potentially winning the league. Do you think
they
Arsenal
win the league?
win the league? I honestly do not. I don't think they win the league. After I've watched them over the last few weeks, I do not think they win the league. No, and I believe City will probably come through, and I actually reckon they might pop down to third spot by the end of the season. But if they had a loss today or drawn today, they would have ripped their soul out. I think they're only one game away from losing and just absolutely capitulating. But after what I saw today, to allow Wolves to have 75% of the ball for 10 to 15 minutes of the game, and you're going for a league title, mate.
That's what they've done a lot of games this season, to be fair. I don't think they'll win the league, and I've said that at the start of the season. I always think it's when you've got a well-driven machine like Manchester City are, where they go on that fucking 8, 9, 10 straight wins in the turn of the year in February, then you start to go, fuck, we really need to have some space between us and them. And you can see Arsenal. How many times have they been top going after Christmas?
Yeah.
Other
That's
than last
right.
season,
They
I
will
think
have
they've been 3 out of the last 4 seasons have been top at Christmas.
Yeah. Anyways, let's wrap it up. Score predictions. What do we think? I always love this time because my head
2-2.
tells me one thing and then I blur out something else.
I reckon 2-2.
2-2. I would love to call you something right now, Jordan.
What?
Well, definitely not.
Look, he's not wrong though in regards to yes.
Yeah.
I
I think
picture
we'll probably go.
I picture Manchester United playing at home to Bournemouth, and we should win. But just in regards to not that they're a decent team, Manchester United have shown they're vulnerable at times, especially at Old Trafford. They're just the ones that if Manchester United win this match, I'll be, geez, that was good. That was a great result, and I'll be really happy.
Yeah.
It would kind of not be a shock, but it'll be, oh, geez, okay, that was really good. If we draw, we'll all be sitting here saying, yeah, saw that coming. And
Yeah.
so a draw's probably, if you're a betting man, the smart money. Now, you can go back and look at what history tells us, and you can go put your money on Bournemouth 3, Manchester United 0. But sadly, look, I do think Manchester United can win. But sadly, maybe I'm just trying to sort of reverse psychology, but I do think it's probably a draw.
Well, I think we can win. I'm a big fan. I said this last week of Iraola, the Bournemouth manager. I think he's the way tactically he sets up teams and against teams. Like he never plays the same style against each team. Like he always changes it up, which I think we'll struggle with. I just think we'll be 2-2, and I think we'll have the lead probably both times.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, mate. That's a nightmare. So that's a nightmare scenario for Tuesday, isn't it? The holidays can't come quick enough. I really want to go into the holidays. Next week we finish up. I think, Tom, the schools finish next week as well. I think it's next week. They go
My school's
holidays.
finished, but I'm still
they're
at
finished,
school.
yeah.
Still, but most will be finishing this week. Yeah, so
the building trade finishes probably Wednesday, Thursday next week. I would really love to go into the first day of the holidays, really positive. I'm going to say United win 3-2.
I like it. I hope right. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I look like an idiot after this podcast. I'd love nothing more.
I'm interested to see what Dean says. He's sledging it on YouTube, so I want to hear your result before we go, Dino. Hurry up.
I'll tell you what we're due though, and in regards, I hope this comes and sort of contributes to a positive result. Now, that maybe there's one that sort of doesn't really spring to mind, and someone will blurt something out and say, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that one." We're due like a big moment, like a great goal this season.
Yeah,
I can't remember we don't have any. Forget the league, like the Premier League, all the teams, but just in regards to Manchester United Central, we don't have any sort of goal of the season contenders standing out. I just think Manchester, we're due. I'm not saying someone scored a bicycle kick, for God's sake, but we're due a good goal. And I just think, fingers crossed, it comes in this one.
Yeah, we actually are. What do you think about it? Like we are due
maybe it's time for
magic from someone.
Time for Cunha to step up.
Who's got the best goal this season? It'd be. I'm trying to think of one that.
Dino's just written Ahmed good goal of the
Forest
month.
against Forest of Oli.
Yeah,
that's a good goal. It's not your goal of the season sort of thing. And again, it's early. Well, there's still half the season to go, of course. But I'm just craving some positivity.
Yeah, something to celebrate, like a Harry Maguire moment.
Well, the moment. No, Harry Maguire obviously has the moment in regards to. I need that thunderbolt off the underside of the crossbar or something.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Yeah, aren't they the best goals though? Aren't they? They just hit the underside of the crossbar, rattle the net. Oh, mate, I'll be running. Do a nude run and be mad. All right, boys, let's wrap it up there. Thank you for coming on. I want to give Mr. Wazza a shout out today. What a kind man, Mr. Mangolia, mate. I tell you what, to ride across Australia, mate, you got to have some. I wanted to say it in the other chat. You got to have some kahunas on you. But let me tell you, what a lovely bloke. He come to the cave. He was in awe of it. He didn't know where to look. We had a fantastic time today. I picked him up from where he was staying, and we went down to Cronulla Beach, and then we went down to Stanwell Tops and came back here. Went out for some Japanese. It was a really good day. We had a fantastic time. What a lovely guy. And so best of luck to him, and we will catch up with him after after he does his ride. He expects it to be 40 to 50 days of riding, doing maybe 100 kilometres a day, he seems to think. So I couldn't imagine it, to be honest with you. He's absolutely nuts. So good on him, mate. He's got a great mindset, and congratulations to him. Kudos to the man. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Come on, United. I'll talk to you later. See you later.
Cheers.